Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Crypto News Podcast. We are buzzing as always, folks. We are into September. Summer's sort of over. Hopefully we got a little bit of hot weather remaining. We still got some time to touch grass, and September is usually historically the worst month for Bitcoin and crypto as a whole. Hopefully we can grind through this month. October is popping around the corner. October is probably going to be a little choppy as well, as the United States election has such a big emphasis on our beautiful crypto markets. If Kamala wins, it could be spooky town. If Trump wins, everything should rip. We'll see what happens, and we will definitely get into that on the show. Time for the intro. Super pumped to have Bill Laboon on the show today, Director of Education and Governance Initiatives at the Web3 Foundation. After spending the previous 5 years teaching computer science at the University of Pittsburgh, he is also an author of 2 books, A Friendly Introduction to Software Testing, an undergraduate textbook, and Strength in Numbers, a near-future novel set in a world in which cryptocurrency has eliminated traditional money. Not gonna lie, I have not read those 2 books. The first one will probably put my brain in an absolute pretzel, and the second one will be definitely going on the bookshelf, and I will be reading that soon. But Bill, pumped to have you on the show, my friend. How you doing this lovely morning?
Doing great. Yeah, thank you, Matt, for having me.
Super pumped to have you on here, mate. Before the show, we were just talking about where you are located in lovely Zug, Switzerland. I only know of Zug because of the hockey team there, and you were telling me a little bit about that. How sweet is it to live in Zug? I mean, just looking online, it looks like this beautiful, picturesque town. You got mountains, you got rivers, you got green. Like, how much of a treat is living there?
I love it, honestly. So, like, as I mentioned, or you mentioned rather, I used to live in Pittsburgh, and Zug is sort of the opposite. It's a tiny town, about 30,000 people. It's the crypto valley. So, besides Web3 Foundation, we've got Ethereum Foundation, Cardano Foundation, Bitcoin Suisse. So it's really weird. 30,000 people, and a ton of them work in blockchain. So again, very different than Pittsburgh.
Are there must be some tax implications, or there's got to be a reason why a lot of foundations are setting up in Zug, no?
So I'm sure taxes are a reason, but I will say that one of the main reasons you see is just that the regulatory environment here is so well established. So the Ethereum Foundation started here in 2014, and they again, I wasn't around for that, but there was a lot of interaction, right? With the authorities to sort of figure out, all right, how can we set this up? And now the authorities here, they have a lot of experience with that, and it's one of those things where the more experience they have, the more foundations are interested in coming. So the more experience they have, so Switzerland in general and Canton Zug in particular have a lot of experience. There's a well-established case law, for dealing with foundations. So you go to another place, if you were going to set it up in some other city or some other state, some other country, you can imagine there'd just be a lot of difficulty explaining what you need to do. And here it's very much an easy process.
That's massive. Look, you just talked about sort of regulatory oversight and how easy it is to get set up in Zug, which we really need all around the world, more specifically in the United States for obvious reasons. But I'd love to sort of start the train here by talking about this upcoming election that we have in November. I'm in the camp here, Bill, that if Kamala gets in with her current sort of, policy, which is really non-existent for crypto, I think we're going to be in spooky town. I can't see it being good for us in any capacity. I feel like a lot of really good companies in the States who are building incredible crypto products and services are probably going to pack their bags and, move to Dubai, Zug, Singapore, any of the places where there is, regulatory oversight locked and loaded, and it's a lot more clear. You sort of have a better idea of what rules you can play with and within. Are you in the same camp as me here? Are you worried at all if Kamala gets in? Like, what can she do? What can her team do to actually finally get some regulatory oversight out? Like, I don't get why this is taking so long,
Yeah, I mean, so first off, I can say I can be a little bit unbiased being here in Zug.
Yes,
probably tell from my accent, I am originally from America and still am an American, still planning to vote in the election. I honestly, we have at Web3 Foundation, we have done a lot of work. We have done a lot of outreach. So our CLO, Chief Legal Officer, Daniel Schoenberger, he spoke in front of Congress last year, the U.S. Congress. We've done a lot of work. And, it seems like, I understand the wheels of government grind very slowly, but we've been doing a lot of work, and there has been some progress. I'm always surprised at how slow that progress is. Um, so what could they do? I mean, I think that there's again, I'm not familiar with all of the details, but things like the Fit 21 Act, and some of these things that are slowly moving through Congress. I would love to see just some mention, right? So some understanding, some clarification. But it seems like from the Democratic side, and especially from the Kamala and the Biden administration, they just don't mention crypto very much, right? They don't mention blockchain. They don't mention a lot of these new advances in technology and in financial technology specifically. And I'm honestly very surprised, because there's no real reason that Zug had to have been the crypto valley. Why couldn't Pittsburgh, or why couldn't New York? And I think, as you mentioned, a lot of this was just this regulatory fuzziness, right? Lack of clarity. And, I would think really at this point in time, we would have clarity. We have a lot more clarity here in Switzerland. We have, there's, very well set out rules for what makes a utility token versus what makes a security, et cetera. And we have self-declared that DOT is not a security, and we have announced this after a lot of interactions with the SEC. Speaking of Polkadot, but it definitely has been a very complicated process.
100%. And again, I'm Canadian, right? But just as crypto as a whole, and of course as Canadians, we are America's little brothers and sisters. Whether we like to admit it or not, it's true. Like, you guys could, if you ever wanted to, you could realistically take our whole country in probably a week. If you really
let us
wanted
hope
to.
It never comes to that.
Yes. You take all our hockey players, our maple syrup, our bacon, all the good stuff, our poutine that we have to offer. You could snag all that stuff if you wanted to. But all jokes aside here, from what I've read, there appears to be, give or take, about 10 to 20 million single issue crypto voters in the USA. 400 million people, I believe. That's, quick math here. That's give or take, we'll call it 5%. Like, wouldn't you want to snag 5% of the total electoral vote? Why not just put out some regulatory framework and snag another 10 million votes? Like, I don't, you know what I mean? Am I at the lunch here?
No, I mean, you see, from the Trump side, right? He certainly has made, quite a few announcements. He's actually done some things in crypto. There are the Trump NFTs. There was, I can't remember the name
coin
of this.
Yeah, World Liberty Coin, I think.
Yeah, World Liberty Coin.
World Liberty Financial. Yeah.
Yeah. So that at least shows, all right, these meetings with Ryan Selkis, right, and announcements, and this hasn't. What I find really interesting is it seems like this was something for free you could just do, is just mention, if Kamala Harris were to just come out and make a Kamala coin, right? Take 5 seconds to deploy something on a network somewhere. I'm really surprised actually that they're really seem, it's not so much that they're going against it, that they're not trying to find use that as an arguing point, but just not mentioning it at all, which seems very odd when, like you said, there's a lot of these single issue voters. I wish I had a better answer for you, but to me, it just doesn't make sense.
I always try to play, the antagonist and look at sort of both sides of the coin here. And it's like, okay, if the Dems do change their stance and go, they don't even have to go pro crypto, just maybe accept crypto, or maybe just tread the fine line of we're not sure, but at least there's some regulatory framework. My thinking is, how many votes would they lose? I don't think that many, TradFi Web2 normies, if I'm going to sort of put them into that basket, if you will, I don't think they really care that much. It's not like, oh, the Dems are pro crypto, I'm voting right wing now. I can't see that happening. So I really don't get it. But
my theory is it's very interesting living here in Switzerland, where it is not a two-party system. there are essentially 7 major parties in Switzerland.
Holy crap.
And you compare that, so I think that's really interesting, including the Mitte, the middle. There's even a party that just says, all right, we're the centrists, right? Which I just can't imagine in the U.S. There's, all right, there's Democrats and Republicans, and there's the occasional third party voter. But I think that this is sort of a like a systemic outcome, right? Is that they see one side going pro crypto, they have to be anti crypto. If you see
Yeah,
one
you're
side
right.
being pro X, then
Good
they
point.
have to be anti X. Which I think is actually very sad. There's a lot of nuance, I think. I'm not saying that right, every single blockchain out there is amazing technology and is going to change the world, or every single project is beautiful and wonderful. And I think there are definitely room for regulations. But I do think that this, who knows also what's going on behind closed doors, right? This is, you don't always say what you're going to do in public. So while I don't understand it, I am also not involved in all those closed door talks. Who knows, maybe there was a deal made or they're doing something, some 5D chess that's, way above my pay grade as a poor technical guy. So who knows? But yeah, to me, it doesn't make sense. It seems like it would just be an easy way to let crypto people know that they're on our side.
Yeah, I love it. Well said there. Let's jump into Polkadot and Web3 Foundation for a sec, just so you can set the stage for us, set the table for us. To get kicked off, just sort of explain the relation between the Web3 Foundation and the Polkadot ecosystem, and then we'll get into the fun stuff here.
Sure. So Web3 Foundation was actually founded to bring about the decentralized internet. And we do this in a variety of ways, one of which is to support the Polkadot ecosystem. The Polkadot ecosystem is entirely decentralized. Control is entirely in the hands of the dot holders. So this includes, any upgrades, any updates, any spends from the treasury. Web3 Foundation has nothing to do with that. What Web3 Foundation does is we provide education, outreach, research, grants. We do a lot of that, work, coordination, interacting with the community, providing support, et cetera, to help shepherd Polkadot. And that's, in our founding documents. So, we are not Web3 Foundation is not a for-profit company. We're in German, it's called a Stiftung, which is basically that's the.
I love it. What was that? A Schriften?
Stiftung.
Stiftung.
Yeah. So like stiff tongue, but use at the front.
I love it. I love it.
But so this is like a very specific entity that has founding documents. We need to do X. Like, our goal is to do X. And we have like, some here, like the Red Cross, right? They have goals of saving lives, et cetera. Our goal is to bring about the decentralized internet. And so again, our goal is not to make money. Our goal, we are a foundation. We have funds that we use for our day-to-day operating expenses. But we just help the Polkadot ecosystem get off the ground and continue, because we see that as like the best way to this decentralized internet, a world where people own their own data.
Yeah, well, super well said there. So was it always the Polkadot ecosystem from the get-go? Like, were these sort of intertwined? Like the Web3 Foundation is set up to sort of accelerate the growth of a decentralized financial ecosystem, but only with Polkadot? Like, explain that relation there. Was there ever an opportunity to pick another chain, or was it just Polkadot from the get-go? Explain how that whole thing works for me.
Yeah, so I guess I need to step back a little bit further. So Gavin Wood, who was one of the founders of the of Web3 Foundation, he was the former CTO of Ethereum Foundation. And when he left Ethereum, there were sort of two things he wanted to do. One was to develop Polkadot. So the white paper was produced in 2016, just when Web3 Foundation was started, and also bring about the decentralized internet. So these really two things were combined at the time. But Web3 Foundation, while it's always had this relationship with Polkadot, it's always had a broader mandate. And so we have provided funding, not just to people building Polkadot or people building projects on Polkadot, but also to people building other projects, also to people doing research on the ecosystem that don't directly have a benefit for Polkadot, but rather are looking at like broader generalized research. And some of the research we do, we produce papers, we do things that are generally useful to the entire ecosystem. If you go to research.web3.foundation, you can read all of the different papers that we produce and are publicly published. And so while like the focus has always been on Polkadot, we've always had this broader mandate. In fact, we just finished Web3 Summit in Berlin. So I gave a talk there on the prehistory of blockchain. So projects before Bitcoin. And this is we had a no logos, no pitching, no bitching was our slogan, right? So it was very informal. It was people from all kinds of different ecosystems that come together. We operate this at a loss, to help bridge. We had people. I've talked to people from Cosmos, from Ethereum, from Cardano, from all kinds of different ecosystems, all bringing them together because those are not really our competitors, right? We are working towards the same goal in different ways, and we do a lot of interoperability with them. But our competitor really is like the Web2 world. We have different ways of going about our way of winning, right? But we are operating. We at Web3 Foundation are operating in the same world as these people and have very, very similar goals.
100%. No, it makes total sense there. You guys are doing so many things, like the reaching 1,000 referendums in the Polkadot ecosystem. That just seems absolutely insane. Especially, it does take a lot of work to get a referendum passed. This isn't just like 4 or 5 lads or lasses in a room being like, oh, we'll pass this one, we'll pass this one. There are a shit ton of voters. You need consensus, blah, 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 the whole 9 yards. You also have the Decentralized Futures grant program. So many really cool, interesting things. I'd love to start with just sort of the significance of reaching 1,000 referendums in the Polkadot ecosystem. I'd love if you could explain how the community votes on these things and how it really impacts the development and direction of the Polkadot ecosystem through these referendums.
Yeah. So we at Polkadot launched what we call OpenGov, our totally open governance system, where one dot is one vote last year in 2023. June of 2023, I believe. And this allows you to allow any person on the Polkadot blockchain, they can issue a referendum and have it voted on by all dot holders. And one of the cool things about Polkadot governance is that you're not just writing something up and hoping some developer actually implements what you do. Like you issue some code, you say, you issue your referendum in code, and this code will execute, which can actually change the rules of the blockchain, which I think is really neat.
That's wild.
Yeah, there's no way to stop it. Which is also a little bit scary, right? If you decide to do something that might be very malicious to the network. And so this allows you to do anything, right? Like I said, you can change the rules. You could something as simple as like changing the number of validators. There's actually a vote for that right now. The number of validators allowed in what we call the active set, the block producers. We have an on-chain treasury with over $100 million worth of assets that can be used for giving to different projects. All sorts of technical parameters that can be tweaked. And all of these are decisions made by the dot holders. So this is not, there's not a small group of people. This is all dot holders can vote on it. There are no what we call first-class citizens that have extra powers. That it's just a very direct democracy, and this has been very, very challenging. One thing we do actually is someone at Web3 Foundation, we sort of look through all of these referenda as they come up for vote, and we try to, one of us double checks, like, all right, is this something malicious? What's our opinion on it? But we mostly try to, stay apart from it. So we have I interact with governance teams and people voting, and I answer people's questions. But I really do my best not to provide an opinion. Unless this is something like actually dangerous, but and this again, this has actually been a lot of learning, right? We figured out what the community does and what they're interested in versus what's actually good for the long-term health of the network, et cetera. So it's been a very interesting experience in democracy.
That's so cool. I mean, I just love how you guys are doing this the right way. A lot of I don't like shitting on anyone, but a lot of teams and ecosystems in this space, there's, it's similar to TradFi companies or similar to, your traditional Fortune 500 companies where a group of, 8 to 12 people on the board are literally making all the decisions, and, the shareholders, really, you have no say. You're holding that company stock and nothing else matters. Whereas you guys are really listening and not acting as the gatekeepers and the key holders. It's really just like, is this legit? Let's double check it, that there's no malicious intent. Sweet. It gets passed. If the community wants it, it gets passed. And I absolutely love that.
Yeah. Theoretically, we could say like, oh yeah, this is a great referendum. And the community says, we don't like it. And so, we actually had a runtime upgrade, adding some new features, something called XCM v3, which is a communications protocol upgrade, and on Kusama, our Canary network. And we actually had the community vote it down. They said this is too fast. Our wallets, we don't have time to fully integrate it. And so,
sorry, Bill, hold up. Too fast. When would too fast be an issue?
So the problem was this was essentially a breaking change. And so you needed to make sure that let me step back actually even further. What this was if you want to send a message from one chain to another chain on Polkadot. So, something to think about Polkadot is it's not a blockchain. It's a whole system of blockchains. It's actually 51 different blockchains. And if you want to communicate from one parachain, as we call them, to another, it uses a protocol called XCM. And when you go to do this, generally you need to have the wallet understand the current version of XCM. And so what happened was we said, all right, we're going to update the network. And I can't remember the exact date, but let's say 1 March. And this was, 1 February. And so we actually had quite a few people from the ecosystem say, no, we want to run this on the test net longer. We don't want to do it too fast. We want to make sure that everything works, that there's no edge cases that we missed. And so we're not ready for the network to upgrade yet. And so they actually voted it down. The community voted it down and said, all right, we're not ready to upgrade. Then, 3 weeks later, it was reissued and the network was upgraded. It was fine. But I think here you see the difference between, a place where it's just, it's a couple of devs that say, okay, we're going to upgrade. We're going to do a hard fork at this point. And if you're a community member, what are your choices? It's you can follow the hard fork, or you can, try to just, continue on your own, right? You have a sort of a Ethereum Classic situation. But in Polkadot, you actually have the community voting on it, and you can see, not only see what they want, but they actually can make their voice known. And, it's impossible to argue against. If they have the majority of the dot, then they are the ones that decide what's the future direction of the network.
You know who could have used that, Bill? Friendtech.
Yes.
Pardon my French, but what a colossal fuck up that was. What is one of the most important things that we need in crypto? We need powerful consumer-facing apps that is not B2B, that is, consumer to consumer. Think about Web2 taking off. Web2 really took off with Facebook, right? That sort of really kicked off the whole train. That was the most powerful consumer app. There was just absurd amounts of FOMO. Friendtech sort of had a bit of a, I don't want to say a moat, but did have a bit of a moat in that, and definitely some really good first to market mover advantage. And then a couple of days ago, we get this news. What the heck happened there? How the hell can you just say, we're going to gas the smart contract and you guys can just feel it? How did that go down?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly wasn't a part of Friendtech by any stretch of the imagination, so I don't know the details of what happened inside. But yeah, I exactly what you said is that this is what the crypto market needs, right? Is these useful end user facing apps. I will say, I'll be honest here, right? We have a lot of infrastructure in this space. We have a lot of people building really cool tech for the developers, for the nerds, right? What we don't always have is people that are building things that are useful for the end user on top of that stuff that the nerds are building. Right. And, I thought Friendtech was very cool. I wouldn't say I was one of the first users, but, I used it as well. Yeah. But I think this goes to show, actually about what we really mean by smart contracts and immutability, right? Again, I apologize, I'm taking it into nerd talk, but, I think, this really was we had this promise, right? Of, all right, we're going to have applications and they're unstoppable. But then you see people actually oftentimes, they code their smart contracts in such a way that they actually are stoppable. And this is something that could have been reviewed. I don't know, maybe somebody was looking at the Solidity code for Friendtech and realized this could happen, but I didn't hear anything about it. So I do think this is a good warning, right? Is that we actually do have a lot of dependence on teams, right? They're actually building it. And again, this is, I don't want to get, only talk about Polkadot, but one of the things that we, have decided, we want to make Polkadot unstoppable. And so we want, if Parity, who are like the main engineering teams behind Polkadot, if they just said, all right, we're gone, we're done. Okay, like there'll probably be some challenges of finding other engineers to do this, but we have multiple implementations of Polkadot for the upcoming upgrade, this Jam upgrade you may have heard of. We actually have had 72 teams apply to build the build an implementation in various different languages. I think this is one of the problems, right? You see a lot of, again, I'm not going to name any names, but you see a lot of companies that have or projects, and they have an immutable smart contract that, like basically the immutability has like a function that says, all right, allow me to change whatever I want in it, right? And so there's a lot of dependence on this front end, which makes it very vulnerable. And so not just from something like this of the team just saying, all right, well, we're done. Or whatever we're done, but also this could be malicious, right? So I do think like something we need to do is have these people that are very looking deeply into this and making sure that we're actually creating unstoppable applications and not something that somebody sprinkled a little blockchain dust on and said like, okay, well now it's a blockchain application. Yeah.
Well said. Oh, that was good. Sprinkle a little blockchain dust. I'm stealing that from you there, Bill. Look, Bill, you're on fire here. We do need to take a quick break and give a huge shout out to our sponsor of the show. And when we get back, we are going to buzz on the one and only Decentralized Futures grant program. And I would love that we could talk about the work that you guys are doing in educating LATAM communities with Web3. I absolutely love that. Until then, huge shout out to Prime XBT, longtime friends and longtime sponsors of the Crypto News podcast. We love Prime XBT as they offer a robust trading system for both beginners and professional traders. It doesn't matter if you're a rookie or a vet, you can easily design and customize your layouts and widgets to best fit your trading style. Prime XBT is also running an exclusive promo for listeners of the Crypto News podcast. You can use the promo code CryptoNews50, that is CryptoNews50, to receive 50% of your deposit credited to your trading account. Again, that is CryptoNews50, all one word, to receive 50% of your deposit credited to your trading account. And now back to the show with Bill. But we got to jump into the Decentralized Futures grant program. You guys have allocated 20 million USD, holy crap, and 5 million DOT tokens. And if I did do my research correctly here, you guys pick a lot of really good projects, a lot of really amazing teams working in the space, and you throw some cake at their way, and they just build incredible stuff. I'd love if you could talk a little bit more about this.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, that is the basic outline is, we give them cake, they build good products. So just to step back, last year, we really saw that, Web3 Foundation and Parity as the main engineering team behind Polkadot were kind of not a bottleneck, that might be too strong of a word, but we certainly were centralized points in the ecosystem, and we wanted to decentralize. That was always our goal. Remember, we are a Stiftung. We have in our foundational documents, this is what you are doing. This is your goal. A corporation makes money, you build the decentralized internet. And we saw that a problem of building something decentralized was having centralized entities that had a lot of even soft power in the ecosystem. And so we really tried to decentralize. So part of this involved, we lost some people, but we had a lot of teams get built out from that. So we now have marketing teams, business development teams, et cetera, that sort of came out from Parity and Web3 Foundation, as well as other teams in the ecosystem that were willing to step up and do this kind of work. And so we actually allocated some of our funds, as you mentioned, 20 million US dollars and 5 million DOT. So a pretty significant amount to different teams in the ecosystem. And so actually, I just looked at the final numbers. We just finished the Decentralized Futures program. We may have another one in the future, but for right now, we did 1 year essentially. And we had 250 applications. Of that, we gave out 50. So that's exactly 20%, 50 out of 250. Those are actual numbers. I'm not. That sounds like I'm rounding off, but that's actually how it worked out. And so we now have teams that are doing all kinds of interesting things. So some are building projects. Some are providing education. I come up from the technical education field. As you mentioned, rather, I was a computer science professor before this. And we actually now have two different teams that we are paying just for three different teams, Polkadot Blockchain Academy, Papermoon, and Accelerate Polkadot, whose focus only is on educating people about Polkadot. And so, they're doing different projects, updating documentation, all kinds of things to help people learn about Polkadot. We have several different business development teams. We have different investment teams, and we have people that have small teams that are looking to build projects, and they just needed some starting funding. And so, essentially, they do this. They have to check in with us to meet the milestones that they say that when they apply for the money, they say they're going to do X. We don't just give it all out at once, but rather we have milestones that they agree to, and then we have a team, actually our grants team, that looks through and verifies that they've completed the milestones. And so far, it's been great. We've had some really good successes coming out of that, and we've had a lot of great teams because they're small. You can imagine these small agile companies are going to work a lot better than some large corporate slowly growing corporate behemoth.
Well said there. Bill, we are getting a little tight for time here. A couple more questions, my friend, and then we will wrap up. I would love to discuss the work that you guys are doing with Web3 education in Latin America. I'm Canadian. I always get out of Toronto in the winters. I don't even mind winters that much. It's really just the lack of sun. It drives me absolutely mental. I don't care if it's -20 and sunny out and there's 100 feet of snow. I actually love that. It's just the lack of sun. I get out of there, go to Mexico. I'm going to be in Argentina later in Q4. I have a bunch of friends in Argentina, and they literally use crypto in their everyday lives. They all have Binance, they have Skrill, and they really use it because their currency, the Argentinian peso, is just, candidly, it's trash. $1 is like 1,200 Argentinian pesos. Just 10 years ago, $1 was 10 Argentinian pesos, which is sort of wild. So 100x inflation in 10 years. I couldn't imagine living in that kind of situation. What kind of work are you and the team doing to really educate the folks in Latin America about the importance of crypto and Web3?
So we have given funds to a couple of different Latin American groups, and we interact with them quite a bit. We actually have a pretty thriving LATAM community. We had a Polkadot Blockchain Academy in person in Buenos Aires last year, early 2023. Yeah, last year. Forgetting what year it is for a second. We also, we have several teams. Like I can think, and I can't remember the name of his company, but John Rodell is the name of the person. He's based in Brazil. He has done a lot of business development there, and has recently started up another group in Uruguay. So Latin America, we see as a growing part of the ecosystem. We see a lot of countries in Latin America that could use the benefits that blockchain brings. So as you mentioned, something inflation. You have some sort of credibly neutral currency, like Bitcoin, for instance, that can make a huge difference in somebody's life when they know that there's only going to be 21 million Bitcoin. So if they have 1/21 millionth of that, they're always going to have that. There's no government that's going to be able to produce this. So I think a lot of places in Latin America, not just Argentina, but I'm sure you can think of other countries like Venezuela, et cetera. Yeah. That you see, this very basic concept, El Salvador, right? With their Bitcoin,
100%.
And so, I think that Latin America is a place that's ripe. Once because they can see the benefits of this, credible neutrality, of this. We call this less trust, more truth, and
I like that.
So. This is our slogan for Web3 Summit, right? And so again, that's not just for Polkadot, that is for this technology in general. And so I see, people in Latin America, this could be an entry point, right? Something like Bitcoin, something like stable coins that that are USDT or USDC that are US dollar matched. But that's like an entry point. And then they say, well, okay, so now I can trust my money, but what about trusting my software? What about trusting my bank? What about trusting all of this stuff? you can get this more trust by using blockchain technology. And so I see that like this, this money, that, Bitcoin, as sort of an entry point into that.
Well said. Bill, what an episode. Really appreciate you coming on, my friend. If I ever make it to Switzerland, definitely need to go see you, and we will go watch a Zug puck game together. That would be an absolute treat. Before we let you go, though, can you please let our listeners know where they can find you personally and, of course, the Web3 Foundation online and on socials?
Sure. So probably the easiest way to find me is on Twitter. My name is @BillLaboon. Should be not many Bill Laboons out there, so just Google my name. You should probably find me. Web3 Foundation, also on Twitter, at Web3 Foundation, or our website, web3.foundation. And if you're interested in learning more about Polkadot specifically, the best place is the wiki. So wiki.polkadot.network. It's hundreds and hundreds of pages of all you would ever want to know about Polkadot.
I love it. Bill, thanks again for coming on. This was an absolute treat, and love what you and the team are doing. And can't wait to have you on for round 2.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Folks, what an episode with Bill Laboon, Director of Education and Governance Initiatives at the one and only Web3 Foundation. He was on fire this episode. We discussed everything about Polkadot, of course, everything in the Polkadot ecosystem, Web3 education in Latin America, the importance of regulatory clarity, a little bit of alpha on the upcoming US election, and of course, crypto needing end user consumer apps, the most important thing, in my opinion, in regards to us going mainstream. Huge shout out to Bill and the team for making this happen. If you guys enjoyed this one, I hope you did. Please do subscribe. It would mean the world to my team and I. Speaking to the team, love you guys. Thank you so much for everything. As always, Eustace, you are the man. And back to the listeners, love you guys. Keep on growing those bags and keep on staying healthy, wealthy, and happy. Bye for now, and we'll talk soon.